You are being lied to when people say that building a clothing brand is dead and oversaturated. Because while everyone is complaining that the market is too crowded and that it's impossible to make money here, there are creators quietly doing 5, 6, even 7 figures selling apparel to their audiences. And honestly, the fact that everyone thinks merch doesn't work just makes the opportunity that much bigger for those of us who actually understand what's happening. So in this video, I'm breaking down the real data that no one is talking about, why this specific moment is different, and what you actually need to know to execute a clothing brand in 2026. Let's get into it. All right, so first things first, let me show you some actual real numbers because everyone's operating off of feelings and assumptions, but the data tells a completely different story. The print-on-demand creator apparel market is projected to hit $57 billion by 2033. That is massive. And it's not slowing down, it's compounding year over year. But here's what most people miss. Custom apparel specifically is expected to reach $20 billion by 2033, and it's growing at over 13% every single year. So when people say that the market's dying, the actual market is saying the complete opposite. It is booming. And if you look at the platform data between Printify, Printful, and all the other major players, apparel is consistently the #1 selling product category every single year. Not mugs, not phone cases, not posters, apparel. And it's not even close. Apparel makes up like 60 to 70% of all creator merchandise sales across platforms, including FLYP. You know why? Because apparel is evergreen. Think about it. People wear t-shirts and hoodies 365 days a year. You're not limited to holiday drops or seasonal windows. You can design around your content, your community, your inside jokes, whatever it makes sense for your brand. You're a gaming creator, apparel works. You're a fitness creator, apparel works. Commentary, tech, lifestyle, literally any niche, apparel fits. Compare that to something seasonal like, I don't know, Christmas ornaments or pool floaties. You've got maybe a 3-month window for people actually buy that product. But apparel, you're always in season. You can drop it whenever it makes sense for your content and your audience. So now let me tell you why 2026 is different. This isn't just another opportunity video. Something has fundamentally changed. For most of the creator economy's history, if you wanted to launch merch, here's what would happen. You'd have this idea, right? You'd see your community asking for merch, so then you start researching manufacturers, and then every single one is telling you the same thing. Yeah, we can do that, but the minimum order is 500 units. And you're sitting there thinking, okay, so I need to order 500 hoodies before I even know if anyone's gonna buy them? So you do the math. 500 units times, 30 to 40 unit, that's like 15 grand sitting in boxes in your garage before you've ever made a sale. And most creators don't have that kind of cash just sitting around. So you either don't start or you go into debt hoping that it works out. But let's say you actually pull the trigger now. Now you're waiting 3 months, 4 months, sometimes 6 months for production. And by the time your merch actually shows up, the moment's gone. Your audience has moved on. The hype around the design idea is dead. And even if you launch successfully and people buy it, now you're running a fulfillment operation out of your house. You're packing boxes, you're dealing with shipping carriers, you're handling returns, someone ordered the wrong size and now you're doing customer service. And some of these things I talked about in the previous video, but it's so important to know because you know what I mean. It's like you started because you wanted to create cool products for your community and now you're basically running a logistics company. And here's the worst part. If the designs don't hit, you're sunk. You can't pivot, you can't try something different because you have 400 t-shirts of inventory sitting there that you've already paid for. And this is why most creator merch lines never make it past the first drop. Not because the creator didn't have taste or a vision or an audience, but because the entire system was designed to kill momentum before you even got started. But 2026 is different. For the first time, you can actually launch apparel without dealing with any of that. No boxes in your garage, no waiting months for production, no committing thousands of dollars before you know if something's even gonna work. Which means that you can finally focus on the stuff that actually matters. Designing products your community actually wants. Testing what resonates. Building a brand identity. Iterating based on real feedback. And that changes everything. So let me tell you why specifically a clothing brand is such a good fit for creators. Because there's actual psychology behind why this works so well. The first off, it's instantly recognizable. When someone sees a t-shirt design in your content or scrolling through their feed, they get it immediately. There's no learning curve. You don't need to know what it is in order to explain how it works. It's literally just a shirt, a sweatshirt, a hoodie, done. Compare that to something like a custom tech gadget or some weird niche product. People immediately have questions. Wait, what does this actually do? Like, do I need this? Will this work with my setup? But a t-shirt, literally zero friction. They see it, they understand it, they decide if they want it. That's it. The second thing is emotional purchases. And this is the big one. Honestly, people don't buy apparel because they're running out of clothes. They buy it because it represents something. Think about the last time you bought a shirt from a creator or a brand that you care about. Honestly, you probably didn't need another shirt, right? You probably have like 50 shirts already. You bought it because it represented your connection to that community. Or it has some inside joke that made you laugh, or it just felt like, yeah, this is me. That's why apparel works so well. When the design hits, it triggers emotion and not logic. And people see it and immediately feel seen. And ultimately, people buy off of emotion. And thirdly, it is a low commitment purchase. At $30 to $40, a t-shirt or hoodie is what we call an impulse buy. People don't need to sleep on it. They don't need to check a bunch of reviews. They don't need to have a conversation with their partner on whether or not it's worth it. It's cheap enough that they can buy on emotion, but expensive enough that you're actually making a profit as a creator. You know what I mean? Like, compare that to a $500 purchase where people really need to think about it for days or weeks. Apparel is just easier to convert. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, but isn't everyone launching merch now? Isn't it completely saturated? And look, I get why people think that. In the previous video, I talked about this a little bit, but I wanted to do a little bit more of a deep dive in this video because it's just so false, I just have to cover it. Every time you open Instagram, there's a new merch drop like about every 3 posts. YouTubers, TikTokers, everyone's got merch now. But here's what people misunderstand about saturation. Saturation is actually validation. It's not a problem when you see a lot of creators selling merch because that doesn't actually mean the opportunity is gone. It means that the market is massive and proven. And a great example of this is YouTube. There are millions of channels on YouTube. Does that mean that you shouldn't start a channel? No, it means that people really love watching videos and there's room for another creator if you bring something unique. Same thing with merch. The fact that a lot of creators are doing it just proves that it works. But here's the thing people miss. You're not competing with every creator who has merch. If you're a fitness creator selling workout apparel, you're not competing with a gaming creator selling gaming merch. You're not even really competing with other fitness creators. You're competing on how well you understand your specific community. Because every audience is different. Every community has its own culture, its own inside jokes, and its own identity. Let me give you an example really quick. Take the gaming space. You have FPS streamers, RPG streamers, speedrunners, casual mobile gamers, competitive esports players. Each one of these groups want completely different things from merch. A speedrunners community is going to resonate with completely different things than a cozy gaming streamers community. You know what I mean? And within each of those, there are even smaller subcultures. It's not one big gaming audience. It is thousands of micro communities, each with their own identity. And I've literally seen creators build 6-figure merch businesses just serving one of those specific communities because they deeply understand that one group. They know the inside jokes. They know what makes people feel connected. They know how to design something that makes their audience say, yeah, like this is exactly me. And also, here's another reason how you know saturation is a myth. If merch was truly dead, the market wouldn't be growing by 13% every year. If it didn't work, it wouldn't be the top product category on every single platform. If margins were impossible, you wouldn't see creators consistently hitting 5 and 6 figures. Most people who fail at merch don't fail because the market's saturated. They fail because they quit before figuring out what resonates. They launch generic designs that could be for anyone, and they don't build a real brand identity. So to solve all of those problems, let me give you the actual framework for making this work. The first step is designing for identity and not for aesthetics. This is the biggest mistake I see people make. People often design stuff that they think looks cool without asking, does this represent my community? The best merch isn't just visually appealing, it's a statement. When someone wears your merch, they're not just wearing a shirt. They're broadcasting, this is who I am, this is my community, this is who I belong to. Think about the biggest brands in the world. Nike represents performance and determination. Patagonia represents environmental consciousness and adventure. Supreme represents exclusivity and street culture. Your merch needs to do the same thing for your specific audience. So before you even design anything, ask yourself, what does my community stand for? What are these values and what are the inside references? When you design with that in mind, your merch becomes more than a product, it becomes part of your community's identity. The second step is to test and iterate without betting. This is where 2026 is completely different. In the old model, you had to commit to one design and hope that it worked out. And then if it didn't work out, you were stuck with a garage full of inventory that you couldn't move. But now you can actually test things. You can drop a design, see if your community responds, get feedback, try variations, experiment with different concepts. When you can iterate without risk, you can afford to be bold. You can try that weird idea. You can listen to what your audience is actually asking for instead of guessing. Step 3, build a brand, not just a drop. The creators making real money with merch aren't dropping random designs whenever they feel like it. They're building brands, they have a consistent aesthetic, they have a story, they show up consistently with content that reinforces what the brand represents. And when you build a brand, your merch becomes a natural extension of everything that your audience already loves about your content. It's not random, it's just the next step in their relationship with you. Step 4, focus on creating and not logistics. The less time you spend dealing with inventory, shipping, and fulfillment, the more time you can actually spend on what you're good at, creating content and understanding your community. The goal is to remove everything that's not in your core skill set so that you can actually focus on what matters. And that is exactly why we built FLYP in the first place. We kept seeing creators with real audiences and real tastes who couldn't execute because traditional manufacturing was in the way. Either they couldn't afford the upfront costs, or they didn't want to deal with the logistics and fulfillment, or they just didn't want to bet everything on designs that hadn't been tested yet. So we built FLYP to remove all of that. You design what you want, your audience can order it very easily. You don't need to deal with inventory or fulfillment or any of the traditional friction. The whole point is creators should be creating, not running fulfillment operations. In 2026, the creators who win are the ones who understand their community and remove as much friction between the idea and execution. Look, if you've been overthinking launching merch, take a second. You do not need the perfect design. You do not need a massive audience. You don't even need to figure out every single detail before you start. You just need to understand your community and start testing what resonates. Apparel works, merch works, the market's growing, the infrastructure exists now to do this without the traditional barriers, and that is the opportunity in 2026. Subscribe if you want more content on creator monetization and brand building. I'm dropping videos every week. And check out FLYP if you want to see what launching merch looks like without inventory and all that headaches. The link is in the description. And also leave a comment. What is actually stopping you from launching your clothing brand right now? I want to know. I read all of them. And with that being said, keep creating.